Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you today, and I'm looking forward to today's program. My name is Lauren Helm, and I oversee Capital Health Plan's marketing efforts. On behalf of us at CHP, I'd first like to say that we hope you are staying safe during this ongoing unprecedented time. We also want to remind you how critical it is to continue following the CDC guidelines with things like practicing social distancing and wearing a mask in public. Additionally, CHP is waiving co-payments for care provided virtually through telehealth to make care more accessible and affordable to our members through March 31st, 2021. Telehealth enables members to utilize online services to avoid unnecessary in-person contact, which is especially important during flu season amid the continuing COVID-19 pandemic. As the only local and trusted health plan right here in the Florida Panhandle, we are proud to be a uniting force in our community by providing excellent services that aim to keep people healthy. It's interesting that this time of year brings another important season in the area of public health, determining your healthcare needs as an employer. We're pleased to be able to offer new health plan options to better serve our local employers during these unprecedented times. These plan options include extended telehealth services, prescription drug coverage, and more. For more information on our new health plan products, call our sales and account management team or visit us online at www.capitalhealth.com. As we continue through these tough times together, we at CHP are here to help. We wish you and your family the best during this holiday season.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Tyler Zimmerman, and I'm your Membership Engagement Coordinator at the Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce. We want to welcome you all here today and thank you for your attendance and continued support of Professional Women's Forum, which is now in its 34th year. The Chamber is your go-to resource for entrepreneurs, business owners, and commerce, which is why you are all here today. Before we will begin, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors for their support of this event. Thank you to Capital Health Plan for being our virtual presenting sponsor and providing an opportunity for our members to tune in remotely. So everybody wave and say hi to everybody tuning in remotely. Next, I'd like to thank our program sponsor, Social Catering and Events, and invite Amanda Morrison to the stage.
Thank you, Tyler. I'm excited. I know our speaker is going to be talking to us today on the subject of embracing the change, and boy, has that been the theme of 2020, especially for business owners, and especially for us in hospitality. But today we wanted to kind of more focus on embracing the constant, which has been all of you. We just couldn't have done it over the last few months without the support from our clients and our community. And that is something that even when the rest of the world is changing around us, we are forever grateful for. So on your tables, you have a little sparkling bubbly to celebrate to all the possibilities that 2021 holds, both personally and professionally. So thank you all for being here and happy holidays.
Thank you so much, Amanda, and thank you extra for the bubbly. That's going to be a great way to bring in the new year. I know I'm thankful. And last but not least, I'd like to thank our gold sponsors for today's event, Campus USA Credit Union, FBMC Benefits Management, Jessica Lowe Minor with Hamilton Realty Advisors. And don't forget to speak with all of our sponsors at the exhibitor tables as well and get more information from them on their companies. As we start into today's presentation, I would like to remind you all to turn off your cell phones, put on silent or vibrate to have courtesy to our speaker and all of the rest of the attendees. We are very honored to be joined by Carmen Connor as our speaker today. Carmen graduated from Florida A&M in 1997. She is a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority and a Leadership Tallahassee graduate of Class 34. Carmen is married to Spencer Connor, and they have two daughters, Alexis, who is a FAMU graduate, and Malone, who is a junior, who is in her junior year at FAMU as well. Carmen taught 3rd through 5th grades for 14 years at Hawks Rise Elementary School, where she spent 10 of those years teaching the 3rd grade. She has achieved her national board certification during this time and then went on to become the assistant principal at Roberts Elementary School for 7 years. In May of 2018, Carmen was promoted to principal at Pineview Elementary, where she worked tirelessly with her faculty and staff to improve morale, school spirit, and functionality over the next year. Under her leadership, Pineview's school grade improved from an F in 2018 to a C in 2019. Clearly, she has created some positive and sustainable change throughout her career, so we are so glad to have her here with us today. Please help me in welcoming Carmen Connor to the stage. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is it afternoon? Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start off by saying thank you to Katie and the committee for the Professional Women's Forum for asking me to present today. It's really nice to get out. I'm either at one or two places. I'm at home or I'm at work, and I don't really dress up, so I get to wear heels today, so I'm like super excited about that. So thank you for this opportunity. To tell you all a little bit about myself, I'm the principal of Pineview Elementary School, and we like to say this is where potential is power. To tell you about my journey, I started there in May of 2018, and our school is located just 1.5 miles down the road. So I want to kind of give you a picture of what our life is like. We have the sweetest kids on earth. And before COVID and everything, I'm normally a huggy person to children, and every morning I would go to the cafeteria and the kids would come up to me and good morning, Mrs. Connor. And by the end of the day, I have syrup and Cocoa Puffs and all different kinds of things around my mid area, because that's the kind of children that we have. They're just a sweet group of kids. 100% of our students qualify for free lunch, which means that many of them deal with difficulties that come or stem from poverty. Having said that, one of the biggest issues that we have at our school is that 40 to 50% of our students come to kindergarten without any prior schooling. So what that means is that cognitively, they're 2-year-olds in 5-year-old bodies. So it's like herding cats when you're trying to get them to do what you need them to do. You put them in one spot and they go everywhere else. But what this does is it sets an uphill battle for us when it comes to teaching and learning. Because when you have kids that are cognitively 3 years below grade level, you have to kind of start your year differently than you would in maybe in a north side school. You have to teach them just the fundamentals of structure because they've never gone to school before. The reason for that is because having to pay for private preschool or not having access to the VPK program, and I'll stop there for a second. Back when I started, the VPK program, which is the pre-K program that's voluntary, that they pay for, the school pays for 4 hours. Well, if you're a working mom and you work 8 hours a day, it would be impossible for you to drop your kid off at 8, but then pick them up by 12. So many of our parents just choose the option of, my kid has to stay home with an older sibling or they have to stay at grandma's house. But again, what happens is that sets the stage that our kids come to us at 5 in kindergarten and they're 3 years behind. 2.5 years ago is when I accepted the position at Pineview, and of course I'm super duper excited about it. This is the next step in my career. It posed a challenge for me because this is a different school environment that I'm coming into, but best of all is that my morning commute from my house to the school is less than a minute. Like I could walk to work, I will never do that, but I could if I wanted to. And that's really cool. I can see the front, from my front yard and my backyard, I can actually see the school. It's the coolest thing ever. I would have never guessed in a million years. We bought this house 20 years ago and that, cool. I get to see this school, so really cool. And that's how I know it's like a God thing that, that I get to be here. So anyway, I'm excited. I have this dream job. I'm right around the corner. I have this new task to do. And I get 2 phone calls. So this is probably about 3 weeks after I get this appointment. The first phone call is, well, your school grade is going to be an F. But they're like, okay, you can do this as long as you bring it up to a D, that's great. So I'm like, cool, I got that. So then about a week later, I get a visit. It's not a phone call, I get a visit. And this visit, I'm told, the school grade's gonna be an F, but you only have 1 year to improve it. If the grade doesn't change from an F to a C or better, the school will be closed and or turned into a charter school and you'd be demoted. So that's some serious pressure. I can hear it. You're like, oh my gosh, that's how I felt. I'm like, okay, so how am I gonna do this? So I immediately, I'm deflated. I begin to panic because you gotta think about it. At this point, this is the summer. I've never been a principal before. I have never been in a Title I school, which is vastly different. My experience comes from Huck's Rise. 14 years as a teacher. This school, and if you're from Tallahassee, you may know, this school is in the middle of Oxbottom Manor. So the children come from Oxbottom Manor or Oxbow, or they come from Summerbrook. These children have had the best of experiences. They've gone to the best of preschools. I remember kids that I had never heard of this before, that many of the children would leave in the fall, and they travel north and go like to Tennessee or Georgia to see the foliage change. I had never heard that before, but that's what my students were accustomed to. Or going on ski trips and doing all these wonderful things that give them these wonderful experiences that they can develop their communication skills, and they have all these wonderful experiences to pull from. Well, the kids at Pineview, they haven't had these experiences. And to tell you the truth, many of our kids have never even gone on field trips until we started there in 2018. So the vast difference of kids that have flown on planes and gone to different countries, and then our kids who are in their own neighborhoods. Well, my experience from 14 years of being at Huck's Rise, I then moved to Roberts Elementary, which is very much of the same demographics, the same type of children coming from the same types of experiences. I had never been in an environment, anything other than those two that I just described. So coming to Pineview, this was really, really different. Well, the vast difference I could say is that when kids have these experiences and when they have had the best of the best preschools, what you get as a student is very different. These kids they can communicate, they know their letters and sounds. So by the time Roberts and Huck's Rise students arrive in kindergarten, they already know how to read, or they're right there and they're ready to read. Vastly different than what we get at our school. Well, to further paint a picture about what our school, and I have little slides and I knew I was gonna forget, but that's our school. That's the front of our school. It's really, really cute. I love our school for so many different reasons. And those are some pictures, if you can see them, of our kids. But as I told you, they're the sweetest kids on earth. They have awesome parents that believe in every being of them, that their kids can do and be their best. But many of our kids lack a lot of resources. And I could tell you story after story about the different resources that they're lacking. But to give you just a frame of mind of one, for example, there's this sweet little boy, his name's Antonio. And on this particular day, we were having a celebration for reading, and you all know what a cakewalk is? Everybody knows what a cakewalk is. All right, so we're having this cakewalk on the stage and we're playing music, and this student wins a cake, and he wins like a little pound cake for his family. So he takes it to his seat. All of the children that don't win a large cake, they get a small cupcake with a lot of icing on top, the color of my dress, so it's everywhere. So my assistant principal, he's passing out napkins to the kids, and they're using it, to wipe their faces. And this little boy that won the cake, he takes a napkin and puts it in his pocket. So the assistant principal, he's putting these napkins in other spaces, and he takes another napkin and he puts it in his pocket. So Mr. McCann asked, well, why are you putting the napkins in your pocket? And he said, well, we don't have napkins at home, so I thought I'd take these, and we could use these when I take my cake home. So mind you, he's really excited that he can take this cake home, but the napkins were really important to him. And so you think about the last time you ran out of paper towels or napkins at your house, you go to the pantry, You get more. If you don't have them, you go to Costco, you get more. But never do you think about, oh, you know, in despair that you don't have napkins, but this little boy did. And that is just a small piece, and even though napkins, you know, it's not a big deal, but to me, how he internalized what he doesn't have at home, how he brings that to school severely impacts how our kids learn each day. Another story to tell you about this little girl, her name is Armani, and I take great delight in learning our kindergartners' first names, and it's just a thing that I do because by the time they matriculate through school, I'll know everybody's name. So I go and I say, hey, Quest, and I'll go, hey, Armani, you know, I tease them with their names. And the things about kindergartners is if they know that you know their name, they think that they're like hot stuff. So on this particular day, I'm like, hey, Armani, and she's like, hey. And I said, well, how are you? And she said, my sinuses are acting up. And that wasn't what I was expecting from a 5-year-old, but I'm like, oh, I said, well, did you tell your mom about it? She said, yes, and she's gonna make a doctor's appointment, so I'll go tomorrow. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I hope that works out for you. So I'm walking away to the next kid, and she was like, Mrs. Connor, I got something else to tell you. And I'm like, well, what? And she says, my mom was crying this morning. And so you have to be careful with kindergartners. They tell all of your business. Like, so you have to broach these conversations with caution because you might get something that you can't handle. So I'm like, well, I said, well, did you give her a hug? And she said, yeah, I tried, but she kind of pushed me away. So I don't know. And so when she said that, she kind of looked down as if she were sad. So I had to come up with something really quick. And I said, you know what? There are a lot of sad movies on TV. Maybe she was watching one of those movies and that's why she was sad. And she kind of looked at me and she was like, yeah, okay. And she was fine. The point is, she could have walked away all day with that burden of my mom was sad and she couldn't fix it and she didn't know why. Those are the types of burdens that our kids come to school with each day. Many of our kids depend on our free lunch and our breakfast that we serve. Many of kids have come to school in the morning asking for extra breakfast because they didn't have a meal the night before. I can tell you stories about visiting hotel rooms that have had the mom, the dad, and 8 children in one room. Story after story about the plight that our children have, yet I'm given this task of changing the school grade from an F to a C in 1 year. But at our school, we have to tackle all of these other things. Did you eat? Did you have a bath? Do you have on clean clothes? Before we can ever get to that important part of that teaching and learning. So, you know, when I'm given this task, you know, the first thing I'm like, what do? I had a lot of sleepless nights. I started taking blood pressure medicine and my hair started shedding because I had to figure out, you know, what were we going to do? And so in these sleepless nights, I would say God would have it so that it just kind of laid it upon me that I came up with this idea that, okay, if we do this and we do this in the right way, maybe we can get out of this situation. Well, in this frame of mind, you have to consider that we have a lot of entities in this. We have the district that we have mandates for. We have DOE, the Department of Education has these special requirements that we have to do. As a matter of fact, we had visits from them every other week to prove that we were moving in the right direction. We have the community. Remember, I live in the community, so everybody knows me now and they're expecting that, okay, you're gonna fix this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm trying, you know, and I had to figure out of all of those people, who was most important. And for us, and if you think about in education, it's our teachers. Our teachers are the ones that are disseminating all of this information. They're the conduit to making our children learn. So what do I do to change this for our teachers? Well, keep in mind, the school that I had at that time, how the school grade was an F was because only 25% of our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders were proficient readers. So in real numbers, what that means is less than 20 of our students could read well. So out of our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, less than 20, it was more like 18. Out of those 18, 3 of them could read very well, but the other 15 read well enough to pass the test. So now you got to imagine there are 75% of the kids don't read very well, and what are you going to do about it? So I said, okay, we're going to change things and try to make things new. But whenever you're new in a situation, you just can't put a lot of change on people all at once. So you have to take baby steps. And one of the first things that we tried to do was to try to get a gauge of what the school was like before, so that we could make changes along the way that would be palatable and not, just give it all at once. So we conducted surveys on what our teachers liked and how they felt. We had interviews one-on-one with teachers and with groups of teachers, just to gain a perspective. And what we learned with that is that they didn't feel valued or appreciated. So I'm like, ooh, I got that box. I'll think of all kinds of great things, nothing but cakes and cards. And I'm thinking all these great things. And those things actually did start to work. But what worked best for us was that we started to cultivate relationships with our teachers. I can tell you a story about every teacher or something that we have in common, but having that relationship with our teachers was the turning point for us, because once you're friends, the other part is very easy. I kind of went back to myself as a teacher. Once my students knew that I loved them and that I was on their team, they would do anything that I needed them to do. And that was kind of the same sense with the adults that I work with. We became friends, and then we had a mission to do. So having these conversations with the teachers, we came up with, they didn't feel appreciated, they didn't feel valued. We got that. The other piece was that when you talked about the students, there were these stories about, well, they come from this home, or their parents are incarcerated, or that, they just weren't, they were just a rowdy bunch. There was always a story, an excuse, for lack of a better word, as to why the kids were the way that they were, or why that 75% of our kids could not read very well. So using that, we had to shift our teachers' beliefs and their values and their ways of thinking to a positive realm. And so what we did was we, in a sense, changed their way of thinking. And how we did that was by this unique thing, and I have to go back to my sleepless nights. So this one night, I'm going back to a different story. I can't go to sleep, and I'm like, what is a structured way? What is a way that I can get people to kind of do something in a way that would give us the results that we need, but in a fast way? And so I came up with this plan called the EPIC plan. And this EPIC plan, I feel like, is what changed our school grade. I think this could be used in other organizations in different places, but it starts off like this. The E stands in EPIC, the EPIC plan. The E stands for setting expectations and setting high expectations. And that's what we had to do. Instead of saying that, our students were children of incarcerated parents, or they were in this certain situation, regardless of that, we had to figure out, what are we going to do differently between 7:45 and 2:50? What were we going to do in that 7 hours and 5 minutes to make a difference? We can't control those things that happen outside of our school day, but we can control what happens when they're at our school. So what are we going to do differently? And that was set high expectations for our students. And the teachers had to expect that they were going to achieve it. So for that one little bit, explaining to our teachers that now you're going to be held accountable. We're not going to put that on to, their past or whatever their issue is. You're going to be held accountable. If the student has a learning disability, we still have some growth to make, but if they don't, we expect a whole lot out of that. And that's when things started to change. We developed these relationships and we set high expectations. The next part was the planning. How are we going to go about and plan this out so that we can execute and teach our children to be better readers? And it takes careful planning to do that. Kids first start off with learning their letters and their sounds, and they take those sounds and they make words, and then they make sentences, and then ultimately they have to read multiple sentences to comprehend. A very complex thing to do for a teacher for an average student, but for kids like ours, remember, they're 3 years behind grade level and all of those other issues that they have. So we have to strategically plan how we're going to go about that. So as teachers, we met, we strategized, and we planned out every minute of the day. In most instances, here's an example. In a regular elementary setting, the requirement is that the students are to have reading instruction for an hour and 20 minutes of consecutive minutes. Well, at our school, we have 160 minutes to 175 minutes of reading instruction. We have to do it differently. Our kids have to have more practice and more time. In addition to that, the same thing for math. The requirement is 60 minutes of math. We give 90 minutes. So what we did was we planned for every single step of our day. And that's with anything, setting high expectations, and you plan everything out. The third part is the implementation. So you do it, you give it out, you teach it. And the cool part about teaching, and you probably remember in school, the teacher would start the day and say, well, raise your hand if you remember what we did yesterday. Y'all remember that? Well, that's like a big no-no in the teacher world. You don't ask that. And there's like these special steps that you have to take when you begin a lesson. There are special steps that you have to take in the middle of a lesson and at the end of a lesson so that the kids can master this given skill. There's a way that you do this. And at our school, we follow this checklist and we go about it in a certain way. What happens when you don't is this last part, which is the C, is called the check. So let me review for a second, and I'm going back to my little teacher hat. You set the expectation, you plan for it, you implement, and then you get to the end where you check, and you do one of two things. If it's going well and the kids are learning, you continue. But if not, you go back and take corrective measures. So here's an example of an analogy, if you will. Imagine a teacher taking their students on a trip to the zoo. And when the kids get off of the bus, the teacher counts 1, 2, 3, and count to 20. All 20 kids are there. They go to the lion's den and the kids are watching, and the teacher counts, there are 20 kids there. They go on to the tiger's cage and the teacher counts. And this pattern continues throughout the day. They get on the bus, and before they get on the bus, what does the teacher do? Counts the kids. That's what we do when it comes to teaching. You are monitoring the entire process from the beginning, the middle, and the end. You wouldn't give the test at the end. You wouldn't go through the whole zoo without ever counting your kids because you may leave somebody behind. And that's what we do when it comes to our EPIC plan. We plan purposefully, we implement precisely, but we go back and check along the way so that we make sure that we're not leaving anybody behind. And this all together is how we went through our first year of teaching. And it was very different. It's a very different way that they were used to. The principal that was there before me had been there for 19 years. So it was really hard to kind of undo some of the social norms that existed prior to me getting there. Well, we started doing this and it started working out, and it even developed a language of its own at the school. And you would hear the teachers, oh, this is EPIC hour and this is the EPIC plan. So I'm like, yes, it's working. And I even got gifts with EPIC engraved in it because people started to believe. Well, it started working out so well. I'm like, okay, well, let's continue with this. The interesting part was that I immediately thought that the kids' test scores and their work was going to, shoot through the roof and they were going to get better. But just the opposite happened. The teachers got better at recognizing when the students were being left behind because they weren't counting along the way. Oops, I did something really wrong. Oh, okay, I think we're back. Okay, great. So in this process, we learned that when you go through the planning stages and when you check, you can't leave anybody behind, particularly at our school, because when you're leaving everybody behind, that's 75% of the kids. So how might we go about doing that? So long story short, we do this plan and I come back and I said, well, let's think of something that we can do for the kids. Now we're getting to a place where the kids can read, They are taking their time and reading these passages, but they're just not doing as well as we wanted them to. So we came up with a plan for them, which I'm going to come back to that in just a second. And it was called the SURE method. So, and this story is really cool to me because of how it ended. But what happens is that when the students get a reading passage, so if it's a reading test or they're reading something, for a practice in their classrooms, everyone in the entire school from 2nd to 5th grade writes SURE on the top of their page. And one by one, they go through each letter of SURE and they do something special to the passage. So the S, and I'll just tell you this really quickly, is that every paragraph that they get to, they write a short summary, a one-word summary of each of the paragraphs. And then they go back and read it a second time. And that was one of the hardest things, is to teach kids in 2nd and 3rd grade how to go back and read something twice, which is super duper hard to get them to do, but they do it. They go back and read it a second time and they underline the main idea of every paragraph. And then after that, they go back and they read the questions to find the text evidence in their paragraph or the passage that they just read. And then finally, they go to each question and they put little marks next to the answers that they know just aren't there because the text evidence supported that. So the coolest thing happened, we say this, we train the teachers on how to do it, and everyone starts to do it, and it starts to work. And their test scores start to improve, and now we're getting excited. So fast forward to about May of 2019, and it's the day of the FSA test where all of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders are doing the reading test. And it's an arduous task for them. They have to read 4 different passages on the most boringest thing ever. And we walk around and you can't read what the kids are doing, but you can kind of glance over what they're doing. But at the top of everybody's paper, they had the SURE method at the top. And you could see that they were writing in the margins, the summaries, and you could see them underlining. And when you went into a classroom, you couldn't tell the highest achieving student from the lowest achieving student because they were all trying. It was the most magical thing ever. Well, they were so focused and concentrated that the time was ticking down and they were still on the 1st or 2nd passage. So then I go into a complete, oh my gosh, they're not gonna finish. And they did. In the end, our school grade was an F. It was a 26%. And from 1 year's of work, we went to a 44%, and that's where we got the C. And it was all about, thank you. And it was all because of the amazing teachers that we have that kind of took on a person that didn't have the experience or the know-how, and they just listened and they said, okay, we're in it with you. And they persevered and pushed through, but those kids rose to the occasion. So I say all of that to say is that the EPIC plan or the SURE method, little short checklists help us to stay focused on what our plan is. It gives us the minimum expectations of what we're supposed to do, but it also gives us something to refer back or to validate what we're doing and to make it work for us. So the EPIC plan worked for us at Pineview. It could work for you in your industry, but it's all about setting high expectations and then expecting great things to happen in the end. So in the end, we were super duper excited about our growth in 1 year. And so last year we were even more excited because now we had, a foundation going and we were moving in the right direction, and then COVID happened. So we weren't able to show our greatness again, but our kids are learning. At this very moment, we have 390-ish kids. We're the smallest elementary school, and we have 2/3 of our kids are currently in the building while 1/3 are at home learning. And you would have never imagined that kids can actually learn through a computer and having their teacher there on the other side. And for us, it has worked. Our kids are learning. We have a small sector of kids that we're just not able to get engaged with because of technical issues with computers or the internet. But overall, our kids are learning even at a distance. So we just have wonderful teachers. And if you know of a teacher that is teaching in this current time, go give her a hug, him or her, a hug, because they need one, because they do an awful lot. And I'm just grateful that I work with such awesome people. But Thank you for allowing me to have the opportunity to share about our school and to share our epic plan. Thank you. So we're ready for a fashion show. Did y'all know about that part? Yeah. Okay, I'm excited about that part. So I get to talk about that part, and fashion is my thing, so super duper excited about that. I can start now, okay. All right, so first up are our friends from Full Press. All right, we have Julie, who is the friendly face that greets all of the Full Press apparel customers with her infectious smile. She's wearing a Port Authority long sleeve slip neck top. This contemporary top comes in several different colors and combines fabrics from versatility from work to weekend. For days like today, she has on a zip jacket, and this jacket is also transitional, and it's easy for the corporate look or the after hours look. Next, we have Sal. Sal is the one who delivers all the goodies at Full Press. Today, he's comfortable, and he is wearing a Carhartt long sleeve Henley t-shirt made of heavy cotton jersey and cut generously for a roomy fit. It's paired with a North Face everyday insulated vest that comes in color block, and he's ready for the excursions of the day. Next, we have Gypsy Rose. We have Madison, who's wearing a Carly leopard top that can be dressed up or down, and it could be layered with a blazer or denim jacket. She has it paired with the liquid spandex, which is available at their Bannerman location. I love that top. I love leopard print. That's cute. All right, next we have Nikki, who's wearing the River Sky dress that's made in America. It's hand dip dyed and is one of a kind. It's like wearing a piece of art. And it is layered with a cobblestone vest made of soft fabric that is made in Italy. Gypsy Rose Boutique has 2 locations, one on Bannerman Crossing and Market Street District. So you have double the opportunity for a cute outfit. Next up, we have Trish from Rebel Midtown Boutique. Ooh, that is cute. Be the star of the show in our Zora gray sweater poncho with rib star detail that is paired with the comfiest black faux leather leggings. To accessorize, it has been paired with a stunning handmade leather and freshwater pearl earrings with a matching lightweight silver hoop necklace made of a single black freshwater pearl. They are both locally made. Be sure to check them out at Bannerman Place Plaza.
We're actually not Bannerman Place.
Oh, okay.
We're Midtown.
Oh, Midtown. Got it. And finally, we have our friends from Walter Green Boutique. Emily is wearing a burgundy lace dress that actually has shorts underneath. Ooh, hot stuff. This dress always looks great in photos and for special occasions or when you just want to feel beautiful. This dress comes in 4 different colors, so you're guaranteed to find the perfect one. All right, we have Christine. She's wearing a one-shoulder bodysuit that will for sure turn heads. She has it paired with a burgundy faux leather skirt that carries you from the fall into the holiday season. Both outfits are available at Walter Green Boutique, located in Miracle Plaza next to Whole Foods. So let's have all of our models back up for one more look. Thank you, ladies.
All right, thank you so much, Carmen, for your presentation. Let's give her a round of applause. As a token of our appreciation, we have that beautiful bouquet right there for you to take home. And thank you so much to our models. They also did an amazing job. I hope you guys are just as inspired as I am to go shopping local for my last minute holiday shopping. As we close today, we would like to thank you all for your continued support of the Chamber and our programs. Chamber events and initiatives are based on input of what's important to you. So don't hesitate to let us know how we can better assist you with growing your business. If you're not a member or you're still thinking about joining, please come see myself or Corey Melton, our Vice President of Membership, and we can tell you about the variety of membership levels available to meet your needs, as well as the programs and services to help drive your business's success. And one last time, I would like to thank all of our sponsors, Capital Health Plan, Social Catering and Events, Campus USA Credit Union, FBMC Benefits Management, Jessica Lowe Minor with Hamilton Realty Advisors. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you in the new year.